Welcome to another episode of OTA on the Air. My guest with me today is Glenn Fehribach with ContainerPort Group, who is the newly elected chair of the Ohio Trucking Association. So Glenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. It's my inaugural blog with Tom Balzer. This is fun.
Right? Yeah. Good times. Good times. I see that the Cleveland weather's the same as what it is here in Columbus. So that's for once we're on the same temperature. So
but up and down the state, though, Cincinnati and Cleveland is happy because both of our football teams won yesterday.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
3-1.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I guess tell us a little bit about your history and the experience that you would bring to the position in the trucking industry.
Well, I've been in this business since 1989, and prior to that, I had a business career in finance and actually a CPA in public accounting. But then I turned over to the honest. I wanted to earn an honest living and get into the trucking business, and I'm an operational finance guy. I'm the CFO at this company, but really we're a privately held company like so many of our members at the OTA, and that means you wear a lot of hats. So over my career, I've done finance, risk management, looked at driver files, truck files to qualify drivers. Been in operations, run terminals in the Ohio Valley and the Midwest area of the country. So you just do everything. It's been a blast, and I'm really happy to be involved with the OTA.
And tell our listeners a little bit about ContainerPort Group, so they have a little bit of context of where you come from.
Yeah, great. First of all, we're headquartered in Rocky River, which is a suburb of Cleveland. We have a rather diverse group of companies. It's actually the world group of companies, and ContainerPort Group is the largest subsidiary. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. It was October of 1971, and we got into the intermodal container drayage business all those years ago. So some might say 10 to 15 years after the advent of containerization. We do vessel husbandry on the Great Lakes, taking care of the bulk ships that come through the St. Lawrence Seaway. But and we also have a freight forwarding company that handles containers import and export for our clients through a freight forwarding company called UWL. And we might touch on that a little bit later about the congestion in the country on the roads and so on. So I want to plant that seed. We have some particular insight into that aspect of the economy. But ContainerPort Group has across the country about 1,200 independent contractors in over 26 locations. And we have 120 independent contractor drivers in Ohio, in Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. So serving the railheads primarily, obviously, in the Ohio Valley, along the East Coast and the other parts of the country. We also go in and out of the piers and the sea terminals.
So I guess talk to us a little bit about, obviously, being in the container drayage business, the challenges in the supply chain. But I guess talk to us a little bit about what you think are the top challenges the industry is going to face here in the next year. And how do you think that OTA can help the members navigate those challenges?
Wow. Driver capacity is always right up there, right? So I'm going to not address how OTA can help at first, but just some things top of mind of what's affecting the industry overall. Infrastructure, driver capacity. We have an aging truck driver population. We need legislative reform. And predatory towing. There are just so many issues. I would say at the top of that would be infrastructure. How can OTA help? I would say that would be staying involved with our lobbying efforts, making sure that there's a bill right now that we're trying to get passed It's the politics of it. I think you've got to have a voice. I think OTA does a wonderful job supporting those legislative initiatives by really maintaining relationships with our representatives in Washington and even in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, you talk, I guess I picked up on the term driver capacity, and I think I like that a little bit more than us getting into the argument of driver shortage or not. But I think when you talk a little bit about the container world is obviously one that has some amazing constraints right now, some challenges getting containers off ships, getting ships in port, getting them through the port. You know, I guess talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you're seeing in that regard that would relate to, detention time, the similarities in those things, and really what the industry can do better to make our drivers more efficient.
Well, it's an infrastructure problem. It's a multifaceted issue when you get down to the intermodal drayage and the port terminals that we deal with all the time. There's also the biggest congestion is in New York and West Coast, and then the East Coast terminal in New York. The real issue is there's not enough land to accept these larger vessels into the port. There's anywhere from 60 to 75 ships in the bay, LA Long Beach right now, for the imports coming in from Asia. And there's just not enough capacity. There's not enough chassis. It's also with the, I wonder how much of it's a geopolitical issue as well, because China also has put constraints on the building out of containers. There's not enough containers right now because of the volume and the demand, United States being primarily a consumer market. They're turning those containers right back to Asia to fill them back up and not letting those containers come inland to support our export business. And, we have a lot of agricultural export in the US and other export. I think that the whole economy is shifting. 95% of the containers that are built in China. And the economics of that will not be changing for decades because they've got it locked down in terms of efficiency and the cost to build a new container. There's just lots of issues going on right now. There is a year and a half ago, it would cost $3,000 to bring a container from Asia to West Coast US. Now, because of the capacity constraints, the ocean carriers have gotten smarter. They've constrained capacity. There's just congestion that it can cost $18,000. So wow. It's gone up a factor of close to 6 times. So if anybody has any doubt that inflation is here, it's here. So make a note so that also, we don't want to get into a macroeconomic discussion, but inflation is here. So what does that bode for next year's economy, tax policy, the stock market? There's all kinds of implications, but our company is at the front end of it. We see it as a leading indicator. Inflation is here.
So let's unpack a couple things out of that. So you said that 90+% of the containers that are built in China, and they're sending those containers over with their product. But you are also saying that we cannot, I guess, recycle those containers to take US product out?
Well, typically most of those containers would naturally make its way into the interior part of the country to support export to other export goods being delivered around the world. Now, because there is so much demand coming from Asia, from the US consumer, that they need to turn the containers that we have in the system, because there's not enough containers, they need to get turned back to on ships, even going empty back to Asia to put more product in it. And they're taking the cargo that's hitting the port and putting it into 53-foot domestic trailers or 53-foot domestic intermodal containers to go on the rail. But that product does not go on a ship. That container, whether it's a 53-foot domestic trailer or a 53-foot domestic intermodal container that can go on a railroad, that does not go back on the ship. The containers are going back to Asia.
So they're deadheading empty containers on ships back to Asia because demand is so high.
But think about it. When you can charge, you used to charge $3,000 for a 40-foot intermodal container, and now you can charge $15,000 to $18,000. Deadheading is not that unappealing, is it?
Right. Wow. And then you also said that there's 60 to 70 ships sitting in the port, waiting to get into port.
Correct.
So I guess for the audience sake, explain to us what volume of containers, how many containers on average sit on a ship?
Oh my gosh. It could be, they range anywhere from 10,000 TEU to 14, 15,000 TEU. And TEU is 20-foot equivalent unit. So anywhere from 5 to 7 to 8,000 40-foot containers.
Yeah.
Times 60 ships.
Yeah. So you're sitting about, so that would be 30,000+ truckloads of containers that are just sitting at port.
Great.
Just to try to get processed right now.
So how many of us have experienced, you order something online? I ordered patio furniture, June of 20. It came to me in October of 20.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think all areas of the economy are starting to see that, starting to see those shortages. We're starting to see the long wait lines. We're starting to see, inability to get stuff. I mean, we're talking about, doing some HVAC stuff here in the office and getting just that stuff is just unbelievable as long as the wait is.
Order early, order often.
Right. And see which one you get and then return what you don't have. All right. So let's talk a little bit about OTA. You've been a long time volunteer and working your way through the chairs and are now the chair of OTA. I guess, what are some of the things that you would like to accomplish as the chair of the Ohio Trucking Association?
I think first and foremost, I'm a kind of a fundamentalist, so I think you need a good foundation. So to me, that's membership. Membership is the heart of the association. Without the members, nothing happens. We also need an involved membership base, and that's what I learned a long time ago. Early on when we joined, it was write the membership check, sign up. But if you don't, you get out of it what you put into it, and I think that's what I learned pretty quickly. So I would encourage all the members. If you're just stroking a check, you're really shortchanging yourself. So join for sure. That's the platform for everything. And I also believe that the path to growing the membership is through educational programs, and that's what I learned in our company about getting involved. Getting into leadership development programs like the Emerge OTA. There's so many opportunities. We also have to, those are the motor carrier trucking company members, which really are the heart. I think we also have to engage our allied members, who are such a valuable component of our membership. They contribute their time, their energy, their knowledge. So one of the things that I'm hoping to do over the next year is actually amplify that and have a multiplier effect. I really want to, on the educational aspect of this, I want to invite the allied members to maybe even have panels in some sessions where you could have some hours of service or ELD providers or camera providers talking to allied members, talking to trucking company members, so that the audience can learn a little bit of a contrast. You have insurance, so many issues that all of us face, large or small companies face the same issues. So I think we could maybe take a little modified approach to how we bring value to the membership. So that's number one to me, is growing the membership and making sure that the members see the value. Second would be distracted driving legislation. I can't believe anybody would be opposed to making distracted driving a primary offense, but if you really think about it as a family, as a human, we've all seen it. We see the guy in front of you looking down, you're like, you want to just strangle him. But in 2020, Ohio's miles, because of COVID, I'm sure, went down 17%. Ohio traffic deaths went up 7%. Everybody tells us most of that is due to distracted driving. So I think we need to make that a primary offense. I can't imagine it won't get passed, but there is opposition out there, and you probably have some insight into that, Tom, that I don't have. I don't know why anybody would be opposed.
Well, and it's amazing when I talk to folks about how one of Ohio is only one of 4 states that doesn't have it as a primary offense. And most people are just shocked when I talk to them, especially from other states, that especially Ohio is as dense of a population as we have, that we're, at the same level as a state like Montana, and other states that don't have the traffic congestion that we do, and how industrious we are as a state, that this is still an issue that we're even having a conversation about. It's just amazing. But yeah, I mean, it's civil liberties, and that side of it is the argument usually against it. But as we often say, civil liberties end when you violate someone else's civil liberties, and we see that distracted driving is one that does that pretty well. So
I'm looking for OTA support on that legislation. We have to do the right thing. Sometimes you have to put some things aside, but do the right thing for the overall good. Another important area I think that we need to get after is reforming some tax policies. Specifically, you can't attack all tax policy, but sales tax on forklifts. We're in a non-competitive situation relative to a neighboring state like Indiana. On the forklift, Ohio does exempt from sales tax on a forklift used in manufacturing. But if you use it in logistics or warehousing, and so many of our trucking company members have an associated warehouse operation, they might have a couple forklifts, we're at a disadvantage relative to our neighboring state. That forklift should be exempt from sales tax, in my opinion. And hopefully we can get something over the goal line on that.
Agreed. I guess, how do you approach representing carriers of all sizes? I think associations in and of themselves get accused of being only for the quote unquote big guys. But I guess when, you're coming from that situation where you come from a large carrier, but I guess, how do you approach making sure that all the voices are heard?
I've got 2 quick thoughts. One is, get involved. I don't care how big or small you are, be involved. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. I've been amazed with our company's involvement in the ATA. We might be a bigger member of the OTA, but we're small to medium when it comes to the ATA. Yet we are very involved. We're on the Independent Contractor Policy Committee. We're on the Intermodal Motor Carrier Conference, which is the IMCC, lobbying efforts related to port congestion and tax policy, and we're not big, so it's really involvement, and it's through education, I think, is the best path. As I said at the beginning of this, I think any size motor carrier can get very good value out of the OTA by being involved. In education, I think, is the best way to do that. I would also say, on the membership side and being involved, even if you're a small company, get your people involved, get your staff involved. We've done that. We've had several folks get through the OTA educational sessions, hazmat certified, and it's also, I think, our responsibility as leaders of our trucking companies to make it a next gen succession planning. I think it's also good for your employee, not just their morale, but their employee happiness working for you. They know they're working for a company that cares about the industry, that cares about them, that helps them develop their careers.
So I guess, you talked a little bit and touched a little bit about that, but, you serve as the chair of the Independent Contractor Policy Committee with the American Trucking Associations. I guess, what kind of impact do you think that AB5 from California will have on carriers? And really, why should Ohio carriers care about what California is doing?
I've got a lot of passion in this area. As I said, we've got 1,200 independent contractor drivers across the country. First of all, I'm the most recent past chair. Richard Coyle from California is now the chair starting this next session. And Richard's in California. And we've got, you've got some good friends out in California as well. But I say all winds blow, polluted winds blow west to east. So Ohio has to care. It's made it, AB5 concept has made its way all the way to New Jersey. Governor Murphy is supportive of AB5. We ContainerPort Group has 100 some drivers in New Jersey. Why do we care? To me, fundamentally, I think folks have a right to choose their business model. And what California is trying to say is you can't be anything but an employee, basically. We know how AB5 works. The B prong says if you as a driver are in the same business as the motor carrier that you're contracted to, that by definition, it's kind of a chicken and the egg. It's a circular logic thing that's just false. I'm hopeful that the US Supreme Court will take up this issue. We don't know that they will. I think it would be devastating to the economy. If you look at, we talked about the ports, that environment is heavy independent contractor involvement with drivers. I don't think that the industry or the politicians or the governors of California or any state like, whether it's Illinois or New Jersey or state of Washington, Oregon, I don't think they understand the economic impact in their own backyard. If those independent contractor drivers are reclassified, we talked about driver capacity being a number one in just industry issue for trucking. It'll be a blow to the side of the ship.
Yeah. I mean, I've often said, and I said this really early on, is that when Uber and Lyft came out and they went on an independent contractor model, I said that's going to be the death of the independent contractor model in the trucking industry, because it's on a scale that's so large and it impacts so many people, and you have all these things where you're dealing with the general public. And that was, I guess, the origin of AB5 was talk about the Uber and Lyft drivers, and then we became the collateral damage in that. And I don't think that people truly understand that that it is such a huge impact on our industry, and it's very difficult to get the legislators to understand how our model works, how we make it through, and how this industry really makes freight move in this country, and how deeply rooted that model is in the country. So
I think our path forward, Tom, and I think that we talked about the supply chain being just constrained. I think the path forward and the best fight is actually going to be from the shippers and consignees, our customers, because they will ultimately feel the impact of this. And I think that, it's talking, everything's about education, right? I've been talking about this whole time together. It's also educating our customers and making sure they're sensitized that a truck is a truck is a truck, that, oh, my freight's going to show up at my warehouse. Well, in this congested environment with, the international freight, lack of chassis equipment, congestion at the piers, 60 ships, just kind of floating around in the LA harbor, our customers are feeling it. So we actually have started, conversations with our customers. When I say BCOs, the beneficial cargo, the owner of the freight, they are going to be our best advocates, I believe, to help Ohio and elsewhere throughout the country to fight this AB5 type mentality against the independent contractor model.
So what's the impact? Let's say the Supreme Court doesn't take up AB5, and so that law is the law of the land in California, and New Jersey picks it up, right? So these major port areas, I guess, how does the model shift? How do businesses like yours and like others, how do they make that shift? Does everyone end up being there? Do they end up bringing on all of these drivers as company employees, or I guess what's the overall impact of this thing holds?
Well, again, this is my personal opinion. I have to be careful. Uh, First of all, we're not in California. We're not west of the Rockies for these kinds of reasons. Okay. There's different ways to combat it. I think what's going to happen is folks would have to get creative. The B prong is the one where if you're in the driver is in the same business that you're in other words, trucking. I think what a lot of companies will do, they will say that, okay, I'm going to create a brokerage arm and I will become a brokerage company. And I'm not really in trucking anymore. I'm a broker and I'll just broker the move to Tom Balzer. So
Right.
it's just a lot of machination and adjusting that would occur. I think if it would actually go to be implemented, I think there'd be a lot. I think there would be a phenomenally large number of trucking companies that would say, I hear you, I'm not stopping. The lawsuits will fly. It would take years to be effectively implemented. And by then, I think maybe even California would say, they look in the mirror and go, man, this was a bad idea. I'm as past chair of the Independent Contractor Policy Committee, fight like a son of a gun against it. But there's a small part of me, it's like, you know what? Sometimes let them get what they want and see the devastation that will occur so they learn a lesson.
Right. Well, I mean, I distinctly remember when I was working for the trucking company, I made the suggestion that, because we were having a difficult time finding someone to interline with in California. And I remember making the suggestion we run California, and still to this day, when I run into those folks from that trucking company at ATA events, and they just look at me and they laugh and they say, remember when you suggested we run California and how bad of an idea that was? And I think that's the reality of it is when things get really bad in these states that have these policies that just don't, understand the difficulties of the industry, you end up, going to have some pretty significant supply chain issues. So definitely, yeah.
I don't want to get overly technical, but I am still hopeful that the U.S. Supreme Court will say F4A preempts anything California or other states are trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, and there again, at the end of the day, we're talking about interstate commerce. So the fact that this has not been settled, that federal rule supersedes it just because of a political process is just amazing to me that they're missing that. So
it's also all politics are local, right? You said it earlier. You get Lyft and Uber, but then you have. I don't want to make this an independent contractor blog, but they talk about exempting beauticians. They talk about exempting courtroom bailiffs. Our governments have how large of a independent contractor population do our state governments and federal government have right now? They use contractors all the time.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's amazing. I mean, it has deeply rooted as it is. And it's as soon as they start digging into their own backyard, they quickly realize how challenging these things are. But unfortunately, when the laws are made, they don't do that digging first like we do as an industry. So I guess you touched a little bit on this as well, but being a longtime volunteer with the industry, I guess talk about not only the importance of why you should be involved, but you've also touched on that key point of why OTA members, owners, and managers of these companies should get the rest of their staff involved in the association as well.
Well, first of all, fundamentally, I think it makes for a much healthier environment, even within your own companies. To not have that knowledge and what's going on, have that residing in just one or two or three people in your organization, I don't think is healthy. We try to have an open culture in our company, and you never know when somebody's going to have a great idea. You never know when somebody knows somebody down at the State House. I think it's another easy way for employee engagement within our own companies. Our employees love it when you ask them to, hey, there's a session down in Westerville, the OTA, and it's on hazmat, or it's on driver safety training, or fitness training, or maintenance on the equipment. It just makes your employees feel valued, because they are. It's just the right thing to do. And I think it creates stickiness, if you will, with the OTA membership for sustainability of and growing the membership. And by having a larger and healthier membership, it also allows us to have funding in order to lobby. We have a very strong lobbying organization, the Government Policy Group, with Andrew Hoffman and Brooks Cheney. You've just got to be in. You got to be in the room. What's that saying? Tom, help me out. It's like if you're not, you're something about lunch and a menu.
If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Right. I think it's true.
So you did touch a little bit about this, but we talked a little bit about the supply chain crisis and the challenges that we're having. I guess talk to us a little bit about what you see in the future, and is there any light at the end of this tunnel?
There's a light. I just don't know what kind of light it is. That's a tough question. In fact, as we go into 2022 and we're trying to create our business plan, we're asking ourselves that same question. How long does the environment we have right now, how long does it last? How long is ocean freight going to cost $15,000 from Asia to the West Coast? Going to be $15,000 a container. Talking about inflation being here. What's Washington going to do with just tax policy, income tax policy, gain loss taxes? What's that interest, or what's that tax level going to be? What's COVID? What's the next variant coming? There's just so many balls in the air of uncertainty. So we're plowing ahead with a semi-optimistic attitude that where we are right now will last for another 6 to 9 months, and then we'll find out sometime mid 2022 how things are going to level out. I think that's my personal opinion. I think that things will start to modify, and we'll have some downward pressure on the economy in mid 22.
Great. Glenn, thank you so much. I know I'm looking very much forward to the next year of you serving as the chair, and I think the OTA membership will come out the other side of this looking like a different organization, an organization that continues to transform. So we appreciate you spending some time with us today.
It's my pleasure. I know that we're all part of a great organization. Tom, you do a great job leading it. I'm here to support, and I know with our engaged membership, we're all here to support you and the Ohio Trucking Association's efforts. So
Great,
thanks so much.